Our role model of today, Professor Frederic Luskin, is leading with really important topics: forgiveness, happiness, and mindfulness. Fred, and these are really your life purposes. You're a psychologist who's been teaching at Stanford for over 30 years. You're the director of the Stanford University Forgiveness Project. You teach as part of the Stanford Executive Program, where you lecture about mindfulness, emotional intelligence, psychological safety, and positive psychology. And you speak all around the world on those topics. You wrote best-selling books such as Forgive for Good, Forgive for Love, Stress Free for Good, and many more. And you work a lot on how emotional intelligence creates emotional and physical well-being. You coach and you counsel, and you are a corporate trainer. Fred, thank you for being here. Thank you for leading by example on WeCAN. Now, talk to us
Yeah,
about.
but let me also say to the audience that I was late and my host here was incredibly gracious. So, you know, that's a good setup.
Well, we know life happens, and we had a little laugh before we hit the record button on how you're from a generation that writes things in a notebook, and I appreciate that because I'm not far away from that generation. So, um, yeah, I love that. I'm very grateful that we're here together now, Fred. Talk to us about your life topic, forgiveness. Why is it important? What are the main learnings of teaching forgiveness to people for so many decades?
You know, I started this work because I couldn't forgive.
Mm,
And I suffered for years. I mean, I had a really painful, negative experience because I couldn't forgive. I didn't label it that way, but I was just an unhappy pain in the butt to
mm,
people around me. When I dug myself out of that pit, I used what I had learned to start the Stanford Forgiveness Project as simply an attempt to, well, you know, I didn't do a good job. I was a therapist, so it's probably not that easy. Um, but I had no grand aspirations. It was just, here's a thing that might help people. As the years have gone by, I've come to understand how much unforgiveness there is out there.
yeah.
Like how many brothers and sisters don't make peace with each other, and how many children don't make peace with their parents. And in the United States, the left is full of angry victimization, and the right is filled with angry victimization. And there's just this sense of, I can't release my pain
Mm,
and let things be. It's just so hard for people.
yeah.
So as I went from my own wounding and my own like stubbornness in holding on to being right and being mistreated and being a victim, I see that is so prevalent now that it's changed the tenor of what I do. It's like I can contribute now a little bit, maybe to help people have a little more peace. It's simply a tool that if you use it, you will suffer less, but
Mm,
you'll also contribute less suffering to the world around you.
yeah.
That's about as simple as I can get.
Yeah, Fred, and it's exactly as you put it. We have to do it for ourselves and we have to do it for everybody else, right? So people that are listening, they should definitely buy your book or your books, whatever resonates. How can we all learn to be more forgiving?
Yeah. Well, one, if you're honest, or I'm honest, we've been disappointed and hurt by people many times. If we're also honest, we have disappointed and hurt many
Many
people.
people. Yeah.
So there's a basic aspect of life of being hurt and disappointed.
Mm,
From its most applicable, it's here's a basic human problem that we
mm,
need to solve. And short term, being upset about basic human issues makes sense.
mm.
Nobody really knows how to deal with these things. The problem is when they become longer term solutions.
Yeah.
And when anger and bitterness and self pity and victimhood become our solutions, those solutions are not that helpful. They don't make us happy. They don't bring peace. They don't enable us to be more effective next time something happens.
Yeah.
So the biggest step in forgiveness is recognizing that
Mm,
we're dealing with a basic life problem with bad solutions. So if you're trying to fix your plumbing in your house with a baseball bat, like you're not going to be that helpful to anybody. Trying to fix a life problem of being mistreated or disappointment with bitterness is the same as dealing with your plumbing with a baseball bat. You're not making it better. You're in fact making your life worse. That's always the first step.
mm.
I
Awareness.
am not being as skillful as I could be. It's just true. And my solutions that are being practiced now are ineffective. So I have to humble myself and say, I need better solutions. Forgiveness is one of a handful of long term better solutions that human beings have created thousands of years ago. So, one of the simplest things is check out forgiveness. Ask people, have you ever forgiven anything? Did it help? Look at history and see, did the people who hold on to bitterness, did they have good lives? If you read about forgiveness, does that have helped people? You want to explore the terrain. Then you might create a mental map that, wow, the stuff I'm doing ain't that helpful. Forgiveness might be useful. Let me check out how you do it. But it has to start with some humble acceptance that I haven't mastered this, and then some receptivity that there may be other solutions. Once you start looking for solutions, like once you call a plumber and not a baseball player, all sorts of new things open up and things get better. But those are the most important aspects is my current way not that valuable and there may be better things that I can do. Then if you decide to forgive, you're two-thirds of the way there.
Yeah. So once we've decided that the old way of going about it isn't such a good way, and actually it's not producing happiness or
Yes.
peace or any of the things that we're after, how do we approach this?
I mean, then it takes a simple understanding that forgiveness doesn't say that bad things are okay. You don't let people off the hook. You don't stop taking them to court, and you don't, you don't make believe that they didn't hurt. You choose effectiveness, so you grieve your losses,
Mm,
which means you have to feel pain.
yeah.
There's no free lunch. If your partner lied to you and you come home and they're in bed with nine different people, well, maybe the marriage is not a good one, and you're going to have to grieve the crap out of it.
Yeah.
But that's where it starts, with feeling
Mm.
loss and sadness and helplessness and some anger. Then the essential thing is to know that grief is essential, but it has a time limit. And once you start like getting in the grieving process, but you're not growing anymore, you're just repeating the same old thing over and over, and you're feeling the same old thing every day, then you need to open back up to life and notice there's a lot of beauty in life. You have to start cultivating gratitude and
Mm.
appreciation,
Mm.
because you want to recognize that, wow, while I was stuck in this kind of negative abyss, the sun was still shining
Mm.
and people were still loving, and there's still great beauty and kindness everywhere. I need to find it so that my picture of the world is more accurate.
Yeah.
When you're stuck in a grudge, you have a one dimensional view of life. People suck and they can't be trusted. That's a very narrow truth. It's a
Mm.
truth, but it's narrow. And you need to pry your vision back open
Mm.
to see that people both do terrible things, they do wonderful things. Some people surprise you with how unpleasant they are. Some people surprise you with how wonderful
Wonderful.
they are.
Yeah.
And that's the opening back up to life. Then, when you find yourself back in the same old loop of bitterness or unfairness, you practice some stress management and calm yourself down.
Mm.
Take a deep breath, quiet down, relax your body, open back up to goodness at this moment, so you're no longer anybody's victim. Nobody's ruining your life.
Yeah.
And then the last step is you stop telling the story about how hopeless you are.
Mm.
You shift it around. I was miserable. I was treated horribly. I suffered for a while. Then I picked my head back up and tried to rejoin the human race. And I have. And now I know I'm a little stronger if something happens again. So you don't end up in that story of victimhood. You end up in a story of life was difficult. I persevered and I came out the other side. And that's the healthy story. I didn't get lost and I didn't get stuck. I
Mm.
suffered, I learned, I grew, and now I'm a little bit wiser on the other side.
Yeah. How beautifully you said that. So
Simple.
I wish it were so simple. You wouldn't have made such a career out of it if it were so simple, Fred.
Yes
So,
and no.
okay,
Um, Often people don't like simple
that's true.
because it puts responsibility on them.
Yeah.
If I tell people who have had long term grudges, you know, one of the best things you could do for your well being is just stop talking about it.
Mm.
I said, if you do nothing else but never again complain about your mother, you'll be happier,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
They don't
Definitely.
like that. It's too
No.
simple. It puts responsibility on them.
Mm.
If I remind them that that's a biased point of view, that A, either your mother had some good qualities too, and simply bitching about her is a small take, or B, there's been other people in your life that have tried to love you, and your negative story about your mom has made you less lovable. They don't want that either
No.
because that puts it on them. Unforgiveness allows us to not take responsibility for our own happiness.
Yeah.
And that is a tremendous allure for a lot of people.
Yeah. I thought about this a lot lately, about this taking responsibility, and it seems that this is very applicable to our emotional and physical well-being, but also to the world we live in right now, right? Where we don't take responsibility and we victimize each other and we show how divided we are and we keep repeating this narrative, and it's not serving us. So, Fred,
That's it exactly.
yeah. Fred, so you have really, you're an expert and you've been teaching very many people for a very long time about emotional intelligence and how that is directly related to our physical well-being and really about how long we're going to be on this planet Earth for. So I sort of tell us a little bit more about those takeaways that you have from trying to teach people about emotional intelligence and how, if we become more aware and more intentional about it, we will improve our lives immeasurably.
I mean, emotional intelligence is mostly the ability to have appropriate emotions for what's going on in your life.
Yeah,
So if you're an angry, bitter person, you're not being accurate about what's going on in your life. You know, somebody makes a minor mistake and you bite their head off. That's not appropriate for the situation.
yeah,
If you're stressed all the time, that's not appropriate for life because you're missing the good.
yeah.
Most of harmonizing emotional intelligence is recognizing the good that's always been there.
Mm,
We're hardwired for negativity. That's our default. That's our hard wiring. That's our basic physical wiring is anxious.
mm,
So we are designed that way so we don't make stupid mistakes, you know. Better to be a little over concerned about traffic that it might kill you than walk out in the middle of traffic.
yeah,
But it makes us unhappy and emotionally incompetent.
yeah,
So the first step again is awareness. Am I mostly in alignment with what's going on emotionally? Like if somebody comes to hug me, am I bringing grandma into the situation? Or am I saying that the world's going to hell in a handbasket so I can't be present for a hug? If so,
mm,
I'm emotionally incompetent.
yeah,
But if somebody is nasty to me and I don't say no or create boundaries, that's also emotionally incompetent. Emotional incompetence is not just being kumbaya and happy, it's being able to respond to life as it unfolds. And so you're the only real measure of it. Are you nice with your friends? Can you show love? When people mean well, can you see it? And if there's terrible things going on, can you speak up?
mm,
If your partner mistreats you, can you create boundaries? Emotional intelligence is a complex experience of moving through your day so that your emotions are in alignment with what's going on.
yeah,
It's an overarching good. It requires us to be self aware, to calm down when's needed, to have empathy for other people so we're not judging them harshly, and be able to integrate life so that we can grow. And mostly it takes awareness and practice. You
yeah,
know, if I noticed I have a habit of every time my partner brings up X that I get anxious, and she's not trying to make me anxious, she's just talking, then I need to bring that awareness to my response
Yeah.
and practice quieting down, or
Mm.
practice asking her questions or being curious,
Mm.
because the emotional intelligence is the awareness and the practice.
Yeah. Fred, so you've been doing this for a very long time. I'm wondering what really matters to you now and how you want to matter. What would you like your legacy to be?
I mean, without getting too highfalutin, Gandhi is one of his most important expressions is my life is my message.
Yeah.
That's true for all of us.
Mm.
My life is my message. No matter what we say we believe in, no matter how it is we think we're going to be remembered, we're going to be remembered by how we lived our life. And that's true for every one of us. For me, over the last 25, 30 years, since I have discovered some of this stuff, partly from pretty harsh feedback from my wife decades ago, that Fred, you have an obnoxious mouth and you need to change it, and B, you don't pay attention to me enough, you're too distracted. Other people gave me the same feedback. I decided I needed to get better at that.
Mm.
I needed to practice. So practice, it's so my I know now that when people encounter me, I'm not the same person I was 25 years ago when my wife was saying, Fred, when you go visit my parents, I have to go clean up your mess sometimes because you have a harsh mouth to them.
Mm.
That's not right. I know that over time that changed.
Yeah.
So you ask me what my legacy is. All I can say is I hope that over time, the way I live my life, the impact I have, the words that I use, the energy that I bring is more aligned so that people don't have to cower or make excuses, or maybe I treat them a way that they think better thoughts. But it's how I live, not how many books that I've sold, because again, my belief is that's true for every one of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me say one thing that also helped solidify that. One of my friends told me when his dad died, and this is a long time ago, that he didn't really miss his dad.
Mm.
His dad was, harsh. He wasn't awful. And his parents didn't get along that well. I mean, there was no abuse, but dad hadn't loved enough or been present enough. His own children, like, and I thought to myself, now there's a horrendous legacy.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I had kids at the time, but if there's any legacy I don't want, it ain't that.
Yeah. Definitely.
Even my
Mm.
kids don't miss me. But those were the kind of thoughts that went into my answering internally the question that you just posed.
Yeah. Fred, so what makes you feel really good in yourself? Powerful and aligned and strong.
I hope I become a better human being, and maybe even more concretely than that, I hope I'm still putting that effort forth. So when I screw
Mm.
up, I hope I apologize. When I say the wrong thing, I hope I soften it. I hope I compliment people. I hope I'm generous. Um, it's day to day. It's
Yeah.
just the intention that matters.
Yeah. Fred, and you put that so beautifully that life is a real journey, and each day we grow and we grow until we die, basically. And that's a beautiful exercise, and that's beautiful to look at it like that. Fred, and what does success look like for you?
Oh, well, it's the same answer I keep on giving you, a life well lived.
Mm. Fred, and talk to us a little bit about all the books you wrote and all the processes you've gone through as a writer. Are there any pivotal
Yeah,
points in your life or in your journey that you felt, oh gosh, this is another topic and I really need to get into it, and then you wrote the book?
again, not nearly as important to me as how I am in the world, how I behave. Do I take responsibility? I do believe I've gotten a little better at teaching. I do. And
Hmm.
I do believe that I'm a little more capable of making my message clear.
Yeah.
But at this age, you know, like you hit a point in life where external ambition isn't nearly as important as internal growth. Not even, they're not even, after a while, I mean, if you ask me, did I do the best I can talking to you? That would be important. Did I express myself in a way that might help people? That would be important. Um,
So if you had one message for the world, sort of what would that be? What do we all need more of?
I mean, you and I would end up in the same place. Whenever you can, try to be kind.
Mm, yeah.
It has many permutations, it has many avenues. It's endless and difficult. It's almost impossible to do because many people are incredibly difficult and don't bring out the best in us. But, like, that would be probably the most important thing we can do is what can we do now? That anyway, am I a little more patient with my partner? Like, if you've asked me a question that I've answered 300 times in interviews, can I still treat it with respect?
Yeah.
That would be all subsumed under can we
Mm,
try to be a little more kind politically? Can we wish other people who don't agree with us well? Can our policies be to try to be a little more helpful than destructive?
yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Fred, so what plans and goals do you have? Do you have plans and goals? What would they be?
If you're asking me, like one more material ambition, I recently wrote a workbook called the Forgive for Good Workbook for Recovery.
Yeah.
It's not just for recovery, but the book company asked for something on recovery. It's a crystallization of all that I've learned in 30 years about forgiveness. It's a step by step workbook. It's the culmination of literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of attempts to teach forgiveness.
Mm.
It would be really helpful, and I think I have some ambition left to try to promote that book. Um, I think it would be helpful to this world if more people directly and specifically knew how to forgive.
Yeah. Forgive for recovery
The Forgive for Recovery workbook.
workbook. And so we want everyone to look that up and to
Yeah.
buy that, as
Yeah.
it's a step
So
to step.
that's probably, I mean, if I have a material ambition, I don't know that anybody yet has put out such a comprehensive and simple step by step workbook. It's a unique contribution, and I believe it will help folks.
Amazing. Fred, and so what takeaways can our listeners have from your story and your journey and your insights, do you think? If
I
you
mean, if
sum
they've
it up.
listened to me, they take responsibility for your experience, choose some kindness, recognize that everybody's a flawed mess, so give them a break, and whatever you're capable of, forgive so that you're less prejudiced and more open to whatever life has to bring. It's all small stuff.
Yeah, it is.
If, all right, so I'll sum it up. That famous book from 25 years ago, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. It's all small stuff.
Mhm. Yeah. Fred, thank you so much for talking to
You're
me
welcome.
today, for leading by example so powerfully for such a long time. And I think you've given so many incredible tips and insights. And we are very grateful for all of the work that you are doing and you have been doing.
Thank you, Stephanie.